All right. Hello guys, I'm Ace with Shield Pest Appalachia. Today I'm going to be going over a WDI report with you all to kind of help you understand what we look for, what I look for when I'm doing a termite inspection, and what you can look for to help out your sellers or your buyers during the inspection. The WDI report allows us to look for wood-destroying organisms within a house. Typically what causes that is moisture entering from somewhere. With the WDI report, we can only report on carpenter ants, carpenter bees, powder post beetles, and termites. We can't make mention of anything else outside of that. If a rodent issue was to arise in a house and we notice it, we can't say anything. We have to let the home inspector notify the customer. We are not allowed by law to put it on the report. So I can say something to the agent, but I've had this issue come up before. Why weren't we told about rodents? We can only let them know what we see that has a relation to this report. Nothing outside of that. You'll see on the report, we have to put what we find on the house. There's 3 different check boxes for it: live insects, dead insects in shelter tubes, and visible damage. From those, we have limitations. You know, we can't see behind the drywall. So if we're inspecting a house with a basement, there's not a whole lot that we can see behind the walls, but if moisture is entering a house, we'll be able to notice. I'm going to show an example of a graph. On the graph, we'll tell you where we find damage, where we find termites, powder post beetles, carpenter ants, etc. On the termite graph, you should always see the measurements of a house and then where the location of the insects or damage is. On the third part of the wood destroying insect report, there's a recommendations section. 2 sections: one, no action or treatment recommended. The second being recommended actions and treatments. The first one I'll go over is no action or treatments. For that to happen, for no action or treatment, usually we notice that there's no moisture intrusion on a house. We notice that if they've had old infestations and we see that they've been treated, we'll mention that in the report. That way nothing has to be done. If there are recommended actions and treatments for this, we will recognize whether it's an active infestation, a previous infestation, damage assessment, and conducive conditions. With active infestation, obviously that's visible evidence that we've seen one of the 4 insects to report. With the previous infestation, again, we'll notice whether it's been treated or has gone away and been fixed. Sometimes it's a downspout that was fixed to alleviate the moisture issue. With damage assessment, what we can report is joists, rim joists, anything we see under a crawl space, subflooring. A lot of times there's things we can't see because of insulation, but we will report where we see the old damage or new damage. And conducive conditions. Conducive conditions are conditions that may promote infestations, such as wood-to-ground contact with excessive moisture. A lot of times you see people crawl space doors with a wood frame touching the ground. That is the first place that termites usually infest, if it's the only place with wood-to-earth contact. And then from there they go into the house. If you don't go into your crawl space, you never notice what's going on and how they're doing it. So moisture around your house is the biggest thing to look out for. I've got an invoice with pictures that everybody has. And I know you guys can't see it online, but for everyone in here, Every different picture is what we report when we see issues on the WDI. So, it could be something as simple as live carpenter bees. I've got a picture of the carpenter bees in here. I've got moisture staining and termites. A house that has no gutters. When the house has no gutters, the water falls directly down underneath the foundation. That causes issues that are conducive conditions.
Is that one of the things that you'll suggest they get is gutters?
Yes.
Okay.
We will make the recommendation for either gutters or a drainage system around the house. We have crawl spaces with no access. Typically, if we are in an older house, we see this a lot around here. Older houses have closed off the crawl space access, but the floors are soft in the house, so we can't get under there, but we can feel that there's some softness in the floors. A lot of times we'll make the recommendation that the house needs a treatment because we can't get under there and there's no way of telling what's underneath of there. So that's the best way to protect the buyer and the house. Box elder bugs. I put this in the picture. I have a lot of questions from realtors. What are these? They are annoying little bugs that don't do any harm to anything. They just get into houses. They lay their eggs behind the siding, and when the sun hits that siding, they hatch out. Usually you're going to find them on the sunny side of your house, or the sunny side of any house if you notice that issue. And that's it. Huh? Not yet. The other thing I want to show you is the recommendations are typically either a liquid treatment or a bait treatment. This is a bait station, the termite bait stations, and this is what a lot of companies are going to now. They give better protection around a house and for a longer period of time. With liquid treatments only protect the barrier of the house that it comes in contact with. So termites have to come in contact with that barrier before it'll affect them. With the termite bait stations, the termites will get into the bait stations, they'll take the bait and it'll feed the colony and eliminate the entire colony. So we put them in the ground around the house, and I'll let everybody look at these. That's what the bait's inside of them.
Do you put around the house?
So they're spread out every 15 to 20 feet. So it's dependent on how large the house is. And then we just kind of go around. Typical is anywhere from 8 to 10 bait stations around a house.
It tastes terrible. Ew. Okay, so what happens when they come?
So
Do they get in here?
they get inside the bait. The bait so termites feed off what we call cellulose. It's in wood, in cardboard. They get into the baits, they take the bait and start feeding the entire colony until they get it back to the queen. It's a slow acting chemical so that it gives them time to take the chemical back into the colony. They feed themselves, so they feed off of each other. So as they feed each other, it just continues to contribute down the line until they get to the queen. With the bait stations, they have 5 year of effectiveness versus 1 year with a liquid treatment. Liquid treatments, just like bait stations, have to be annually inspected no matter what. You always want to make sure whether your liquid treatment still has a chemical barrier or whether these have been infested, and change out the baits. The good thing about these new termite bait stations is instead of treating an entire area around a house, you can put these in one certain area that the infestation is at to treat and begin the treatment. The difference in effectiveness is speed. Liquid treatments start working right away, but they only kill what's right on top of them. These take about 30 days to take effect, but once they take effect, they clear out the colony. So you're not having as much movement.
And you probably don't have to retreat then.
Literally, if there's a retreatment, I go get 2 of these and drop them in there. These cost $100 or $50 a piece for a set, so these are $100 a station versus paying anywhere from $700 to $1,500 to have the entire place treated. So it's a lot cheaper and easier to manage for people.
Did you do some preventative measures as well, or just
Yes.
Yeah.
So we also use these in pre-treatments and post-treatments. Pre-treatment wise, it's on a new house, new build. If you don't have the liquid treatment done, or like around here this year, any liquid treatments that were done in the spring, we had so much rain this year.
Yeah.
We don't really know how that's going to affect everything down the road, but it's not going to be as efficient as it was before. So putting something like this around it when it's been really rainy will protect it for 5 years versus you don't know if that liquid treatment's going to stay because it was affected by the weather.
If there's an active infestation, do you suggest that they do the liquid and then put that in, like, so they don't have to wait 30 days?
No, termites don't move that fast. So within 30 days, the colonies will start to eliminate themselves. A liquid treatment, we could do a spot liquid treatment on a very serious infestation. I would do a spot treatment and then still put these out to eliminate the whole entire colony.
So you would do both in conjunction
Mm-hmm.
with each other.
That have to be a serious infestation.
talk about your contracts and the benefits of that?
So our contracts are all 1 year. And within the 1 year, if anything ever happens, we come back out, we treat it at no cost. We replace any of the damaged boards that we can, or depending on what it gets into or infestation. Sometimes it's just out of the ground if we notice something like that. Try to find where the entrance of their colony's coming from, what's creating that infestation to help eliminate it and correct it.
And you make it clear to them that it's not the previous damage, it's any damage that happened.
Yep.
And then
And I think,
try to do that.
yeah, and on our reports, on the back side of them, it kind of gives, an idea about what the infestations are for, the purposes. We, by law, cannot report like fungus or mold on wood, which makes no sense to me, but we're underneath the same space as a home inspector, so I don't know why it would be different, but we're not allowed to report on it.
But the home inspector can report
The
it.
home inspector has I think he has to report it.
Yeah.
Can you just call it microbial growth? If you make any
I typically will call it microbial growth, but I really can't go much further than that. They don't even want us putting microbial growth though. The state recommends that we stick to just the insects and stay away from that.
I take care of it here at the north. I just have to call him and say, hey, we got some hornets.
I do a little plug for him as well. Once upon a time, I got messaged on Facebook. Was like, hey, you need a bug guy. And I was like, I do, because my bug guy was actually unreliable. So I've had him come in. I've had him come after some of the bigger names around here. And he's just been very honest with me, which is what I really like. Because it's real easy, I feel like, in this business to set yourself up to make more money, right? Like, if you see any type of thing, you're like, oh, you need like $1,500 treatment. And like, I've had him come in and be like, man, there's railroad ties in a property, right? It's not on the actual property. It's out in the garden. It's wood touching the dirt. Termites gonna eat it, right? And some of the things that he's told me is like, it's not like, oh, you caught termites. Like termites, and correct me if I say anything incorrect, they live in the root system, right? So they're constantly just out there. So the moment you put wood to wet soil, they're like, this is great. This is my favorite thing. And so then they make contact with that and will go up. So he'll be like, man, I'll do like a general spray right here. I didn't see any on the perimeter of the house. It's going to be this. Whether some of these companies will say, well, you're going to need a whole house spray. It's going to be this because you never know. And so I've appreciated his transparency and honesty on that. I like contracts because I have him come to all my properties and his guys, and they actually have like a little broom. Y'all in a house in like the entryway, and it's all cobwebbed up. Well, now they get up there and they get all those cobwebs out of there, all the hornet's nests. They get all those out of there as well, and they're also looking too if there's any type of treatment that needs to be done. I like to have eyes on the property because we're in such a wet climate here in Northeast Tennessee. It's just you got to be on the lookout for termites. So on all my properties, I have him on those contracts, so that way it's better to invest in that than say, I don't need it, which we've all sold homes where that's what a homeowner says, and they're shocked when they have termites. Because you're not getting in your crawl space, you're not looking at a mud tube like outside on your foundation. You're just out, bebopping around. You go inside, you go to sleep, you go to work. That's it. So I think it's a huge benefit for that. So I appreciate him. Appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
Everything that you've done for us here and for the education.
All right.
We need it.
Appreciate you.
Hey, I've got one thing to say too, that it's relative, it's in our contract, the purchase and sale agreement about wood infestation. So I always recommend to your buyers that they call and give them a choice of 3. Obviously, it would be great to have him on your list. But remember now, it's if you have the treatment, there's a difference, and he told you, there's signs of a termite, right? That live termites. There's signs of dead termites, and then there's also signs where they have been in their houses. There's a big difference. Some realtors have came to me and said, oh, there's signs, there's old tubes, we want the house treated. And that's not the case. If it's been treated before and there's still the old tubes, it would be nice if they would have been removed, but they're not active. So there's no termite. If they say there's none recommended, that means exactly what it says. There is none recommended. But realtors don't necessarily know that because they haven't had a class like this one.
Well, there's also a local company here, I won't name them, that if they see any past tubes, they'll call it active per their company policy.
Yeah.
And so they've thrown that out there, and Dustin actually was like, well, my seller has an active contract with another company, so it gets sprayed all the time. I'm like, what do you mean? They even had like stations out there. And they were like, oh, well, it's our company policy. If we see any type of past stuff, we just call it active.
So you're a liar.
And it was like,
Be really leery too of any company that claims that they can do a treatment for $200 or $300 because there is the chemicals, from what I understand, you couldn't possibly be treating a house for $200 or $300. So there is an expense to it. Make sure that we use our good common sense that the people that we're dealing with, because ultimately we don't want to recommend somebody that we don't believe in, right?
And in the pictures you'll see, when we do a report, I take pictures of everything. If there's drill holes and previous evidence of a termite treatment, I'll notice or I'll put that on there. So even if I don't see anything, I still see that there was drill holes in there, and that should be enough. There may be an active contract through the seller, through somebody else, and they can pass that on to the buyer. A lot of people will do that, and that's not a big deal, but it's always for their protection, that they know it looks like somebody drilled here before. I didn't find any signs of evidence other than there was drill holes, so, you may be able to ask the seller for some more information.
Due diligence and making sure you cover everything.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I had Ace come to a house, it was a $475 treatment, and then the buyer had someone else come out, and it was $4,000, they're like, all of this is messed up, all these boards and stuff, but the other agent and I had agreed to half the termite on the repair proposal, and then it died, and she wouldn't pay for it, and he was like, you owe me $4,000, I was like, no, I don't, This one right here. The recommended treatment from the actual person, so that saved my butt too. And just seeing the difference of a bigger company wants to make money, and you're just like, this is what it is.
Well, it used to be in the purchase and sale agreement that if there was signs of live termites, the seller had to treat them.
yeah, they got
It doesn't say that anymore. It says you have to put it in your, what am I trying to say? Whenever you list the damage or things you need. Proposal. Yeah, there you go. It's in the proposal. Put it in your proposal now.
You're welcome. Have a
They
great
changed it
day.
this year, didn't they?
Yeah. So.
And anytime you guys have any questions on a report, if it comes from somewhere else, feel free to call me, text me, say, hey, we got this report. This is what it has in it. And I'll look over it for you. I don't mind doing that just to make sure we're all on the same page. If you don't understand something that's in there or why they called it out, I'll try to help you, because as long as they have done the report correctly and the graph correctly, it's easy to find. where the infestation is. They should always know where they find the damage of anything. So you have questions, feel free to call me. I don't mind helping you out on something like that.
Bring some business cards.
I did, and I'll grab them before I
Okay.
leave.
We can put like in the workspace area, and I'll give everybody here one.
But this paperwork right here is just a sample for you all to keep. And basically, if you have any questions of what's in the information, I've pretty much put it down inside of each box so that you can read it over and kind of help yourself in getting a little more knowledge on it.
Matt made really good, gave us a good idea. Whenever we're dealing with an inspector of any kind, I like looking them in the eye and knowing they're telling me the truth. And that's a great feeling. So if Matt says this about this gentleman, I can understand what he's trying to tell you, because I do the same, man. I don't want my buyers to buy a house that has termite problems, and I don't want nobody to go in there and rush. But what I do want is somebody to be honest with me about the cost that come with that, because they can be quite expensive, especially if somebody, just like Matt said, that we're talking about and you used to could exclude, or in our contract, buildings on the outside or shrubbery on the outside, but it doesn't say that now. So they could literally go in and put fees on you and cost on your buyers, that are they shouldn't have to pay. So that's good advice.
But with us, if we notice something, you're going to get a picture. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
If I can't take a picture of it, I'm not going to sell it to you because I can't. But you'll have proof, and I'll show you exactly where it is in its
Taking
relative
that
location.
could be factor out, saying this is what I see, and that's what you should be doing.
Right. Anybody else have any other questions? I don't think so.
Awesome.
Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you.